Welcome to Event Icons, where we're going to get rocking and rolling in just a quick minute. Here we go.
It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of #EventIcons, presented by Endless Events, the show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything. Use the question panel on the webinar to submit your questions, or you can hop on Twitter. Submit your questions with #EventIcons. We'll be answering your questions live during the entire show. Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better conversation we can have. So please help share #EventIcons on Twitter and Facebook. Just tell your friends to watch at www.event-icons.com. Now, without any further delay, this is #EventIcons.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Event Icons. Will Curran here, joined by the lovely Tahira Endine in the house. Today, we're talking about 2019's event design trends. It's incredibly important as event professionals for us to always be on top of the latest trends because our clients are asking for them. They want to know what's new, what's hot, what can I do different, how can I make my event better than that person's event. So we're going to be talking today, how can you incorporate those trends into your designs? And we brought two of the most amazing people who are going to drop serious amount of knowledge bombs around the design trends for 2019. So let's get this show kicked off and rocking and rolling.
Well,
So as I said, I'm joined by lovely Tahira Endine.
Yes.
Oh, Tahira, you get the intro. You got this.
I know. So I'm trying to talk. We know this is going to be a bit tricky today. So I'm so excited to have two of my very favorite people in the world on the show with us today, David Merrell and Susie Perelman. So David, owner of AOO Events in LA, has been in the industry for, I won't say, it makes him sound older than he really is. So, but for about 30 years.
Pretty old.
Doing some really amazing events, and is going to talk a lot about some of their experience and what they've been doing. Susie, also lots of great experience. She has a thirst to travel the world, a curiosity to explore trends, and owns a fantastic company called Mosaic. Really a focus on linens, and she uses her experience and her love of all things fabulous to curate linen collections so the team can really help clients around the world. But so much more than just linens, from what you actually bring to the party. So I would love to turn it over to you guys. And we'll start off with our basic question is, what got you into the events industry? So let's start with Susie.
Well, yeah, that's sort of an easy one for me. I always was interested in art. My background is in art, but I actually really loved business. So even when I was in college, I was always finding ways to merge sort of data and business and, in some senses technology and biology actually, with my love for art. And so merging these two things together in a career path enabled me to sort of keep my left brain, right brain thing going together. And I started right out of college catering. And from there, I've always been in industries and different businesses that provided me with opportunities to do marketing and decor and all sorts of visual things.
And if you weren't in events, what would you be doing?
Oh my goodness, maybe being a beach bum and living on the beach somewhere.
I like that answer. Could that be my answer from now on? Let's all be
sure. Let's go together.
I'd like for that to be my answer now. Time for retirement.
So tell us a bit about your history, which I know is interesting.
Yeah, I took a very different path. I actually graduated out of college with an accounting degree. And really my goal was to own a business. I had no idea what business I wanted to own. I just wanted to eventually get into it one day. And through a series of jobs in different industries, kind of landed into the special events industry in the late 80s, bartending for a company very similar to mine. And I started to become aware that, hey, there was this whole industry. It was through my lack of enthusiasm for my other jobs and talking with this guy that he said, well, hey, why don't you be vice president of sales and marketing for me? I'm like, special events industry? Sure. I had no idea what it was about. And when I got into it, I fell in love with the industry instantly. It was the first job I did. I fell in love with it instantly. And the first job, I also knew this is where I wanted to land and be in the rest of my life. And I also realized from that first job that I didn't want to be with the guy I was working for. So I went on this crash course, which a crash course back in 1988 and 89 basically was getting the Special Event magazine, which was about that thick at the time, and reading cover to cover, because nothing was online. There was no hospitality management programs. There was no avenue to learn about this industry back in the day. So I just kind of learned through the School of Hard Knocks. And where I am now has just been a go with the flow kind of philosophy I've always had with myself. And my company's kind of morphed to where I am now.
That's amazing. David also is the way we met was actually through the Global Event Forum, which Tahira participated as well. And
Yes.
I've learned that David is an amazing manager of meetings as well. So we know that if you weren't in the events industry, you could easily manage some amazing meetings.
I could probably do that for a living. Yeah, I probably
Note
could.
to self.
Well, you know, when you're ready to not have that giant warehouse and amazing team, there you go. You can hit the road and just teach people how to be as amazing as you.
Yeah. So what's the expression for those who can't do, teach?
Yeah.
So I'm not really at that point yet. I'm
Yeah.
still doing quite well. And, you know, after 30 years being in the business, I'm very proud to say that our company's on an upward trajectory and not slowing down at all. So that's definitely keeps me motivated at times where, if you're owning the business, Susie will definitely attest to it. There's a lot of heaviness that comes. It's not just the lighthearted stuff of the events. It's the heaviness of the administration and the human resources and everything that comes with an event. That definitely is the heavy part, the part that I constantly think, I'd really like to get rid of this.
Awesome.
But
Well, hey,
let's keep me in.
Well, I know you guys have a very exciting thing coming up, which is one of the reasons why we have you on the show. Is you guys give a session based on the design trends to look forward to for the next year, every year at TSE, the special event. Can you guys give a little bit of a preview as far as kind of what you're working on? And obviously, we're going to talk about trends and some of the things that you're going to feature in there. But like, what do people have to look forward to if they were to attend that session?
Susie, do you want to go with that? You want me to go with that?
Sure. I mean, yeah, we actually have a really exciting day planned. It's more than just a session. We've really expanded upon what we're trying to do this year, mostly because we have a lot to say. And an hour just isn't enough time. So luckily for us, the partnership that we have with TSC has enabled us to set up a series of sessions that will really act as an umbrella and fully encompass all facets of the industry. So we're going to be opening the day with our session about what you could expect to see in design trends and sort of how we translate what's happening in the world to events, and using that as inspiration. We hope that everyone can join the conversation, and also it can ignite ideas of their own for when they go back home. Beyond that, we have sessions in technology. We have sections in interior design. I'm working on a section that is weddings and floral designs with one of Dave's staff members, Anil. And did I miss one more, or that's all of them, Dave? I forget.
Well, we're doing our session, and to do it, we're explaining this a little bit more because it's very, very different. It's something, a departure even for TSC the special event convention, and that they're sticking the education session on the floor. There's a lot of production companies stepping up, from All-Star Group, who's going to do it in a complete stage, lighting, sound, mapping. We brought in Transforma to do perimeter. We've got a headphone company, Party Headphones, coming in to do all the headsets so everyone can hear perfectly what's going on. It's quite a thing that they're actually doing on the floor. And they took what was our seminar, which used to be an hour and 45 minutes, and they've broken it up into these segments. So we have our segment that everyone's known us for years, just me and Susie on stage from 11 to 12. And then it all also happens at the end of the day. If you go to the website, you'll see it's DO6, DO7, and DO8. DO6 is just me and Susie. At 1 o'clock, it's 1 o'clock, there's two sessions. The first one is the interior design industry and how it has affected the live events industry. And that's with myself and Devin Smith from Edge Design Decor, a brilliant new furniture rental design company out of Los Angeles. And one of my designer producers, Ruben Gomez, who's a brilliant designer himself. And then Susie's on with her own sessions, which is Weddings and Flowers from, it's another half hour, 45 minutes, and that's with Neil Pacheco, who's the lead floor designer for me. And then in the afternoon, Kevin Belita is joining me for a half hour technology section. And then we repeat what Susie and I did again. The reason why we're mentioning this is our seminar has always been packed to the point where you couldn't get in. And so now it's 300-400 seats and it's being done twice. So you have plenty of time to come in and see it if it's not the morning or in the afternoon. Yeah.
That's so fantastic. I'm curious to know, so we've done an episode on event technology trends every single year. This is our first year doing the design trends. So I'm curious to hear it from your guys' perspective. How do you guys come up with some of these trends and kind of see, the kind of futurist look out for what it's going to be like the next year? Can you tell us a little bit about like your thought process every year? You said you're working on obviously building us up for TSC. Can you tell us a little bit about what you kind of, where you get your inspiration, all that sort of stuff?
Well, first off, both Susie and I are designers. So, she had really lived in kind of the more social world. I lived more in the corporate world. And we came at our designs, and this is one of the reasons why we love working together. She comes from a very different angle in the way she designs than I do. The way she looks at things is very different. And to me, that's very intriguing because you learn from other designers. But, when I started speaking 20 years ago, we were building sets on the stage and doing flowers and making it all pretty and giving ideas, but the world's changed. The world's changed in a very big way. In that we are now in a corporate world where they're expecting us to be part of the return on investment of these events. And so we have to think about things, not just what's pretty, but also how they're impacted. And there's so many ways to impact them, from technology, which is obvious, and so many different ways to do that, from mobile phone applications to advances in LED technology, lighting, sound, you name it. But there's as many things you should know about flowers and food, which is a huge way to take people on a journey. And most designers now have to think beyond just flowers and linens. They have to think about the entire experience. And so this was something that I think both Susie and I started doing years ago, is thinking more holistically, and it just kind of morphed its way into this seminar. So this seminar is never going to be about one subject, because that would be a very narrow view of how to create an experience for clients. This is a much more overall view.
Yeah, and I want to just expand upon that, agree wholeheartedly with everything that Dave has said. We start this year building upon what we've done in the past, and some of the trends that we have seen really have just continued to be magnified and grow. One of the things that we've definitely talked about in the past and really got positive response upon was interactive experience and just experience as a whole. Last year, we talked a lot about hospitality and hotels and dining as experiences, and we've really sort of taken those and brought them to a new level. And we're really going to be talking about immersive experiences and takeaways. As Dave mentioned, we are charged with, having a return for our clients and really making memories for them. And whether it's in the social space or in the corporate world, we want people to walk away with an experience that lasts far beyond the evening or the day of the event.
Yeah, the reality is I'm no longer just selling decor. I literally sell food concept ideas to these clients and then execute them with the beverage staff that's in the hotel or wherever. So I'm really making myself as a designer, as Susie is, way more valuable, because we're no longer one-dimensionally. It's 3D thinking now.
I think it's really important. One of the things that you guys that you won't know that I did this year is I went to it's called the College of Extraordinary Experiences, which was 5 days talking about immersive design in this castle. But what was interesting to me about that is that it wasn't just people from the events spectrum. And it was a really great reminder that, we are so responsible for taking care of that in events, but it's also an expectation of life. And so, so you go through life with all these experiences now, And then you come to an event and you expect a little bit more. So we really do need to be really on top of some of those things. So you guys bring a ton of experience to design. So, as you're going through, what are some of the tools that you guys are using to stay fresh and to really bring some of these concepts forward?
Well, I will say one of the things that you just mentioned is the sort of interconnectivity of all different sectors of life. And it's interesting to me that you went to this conference and they were not just from people from the event world. And I think that one of the things that really ignites my soul, and I know Dave's as well, is just how things that are happening in the world really trickle down and land in our laps, and what do we do with them? So, we could talk about the tools, and certainly social media. I'm looking at what's out there, whether it's in theater or in art or in movies or in travel or just walking down the street where you live. It's really taking those experiences and thinking about what's going on a global level, also thinking about what's going on in your local community and finding ways to bring those things to life. And I think that the tools that we're talking about that we use, certainly there are always new fabrics and certainly there's decor components that Dave will utilize, but the tools that I thought we're talking about are a lot more abstract, and how we utilize them is new unto itself.
Yeah. To hear, I've been wanting to hear about that castle thing because I know you told me you're going on. It's very similar to the C2 conference in Montreal. The C2 conference really brings people from many different industries together. And it's a think tank on coming from angles you would never guess in a million years. And that's where the gems are, is bringing people in from these different walks of life and talking about the same thing and considering angles you would never have thought of.
So true. So now when you guys start to think about design, what are some of the things that you guys are, really inspired by right now? If you have, if you were like one or two things that you're just like, and then I saw this, like,
we start, and I'm going to answer this question. I'm going to work my way into it. When we started doing the research this year, I think it was probably not even a week ago that Susie and I were going, there's nothing new here. But when we started to dig into more, it may be, and I think maybe we got a little bit spoiled in that we're expecting new products all the time. But what we started to find is older products that are being used new ways, or products that have been expanded and used in a very different way than they were used before. And it's worth looking at those products again. The one thing that Susie started to mention is that we really realized that the immersive experience is really getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and more people are incorporating it. You're not only seeing it in the restaurants, and we're going to show you a number of examples in restaurants, but the exhibits, from the ice cream exhibit to the happy, what's it called, Susie?
The happy place. There's all these pop-ups are just everywhere. The happy place, and the pizza museum, and the neon museum, and the ice cream museum was one of the first ones. But there's actually lessons for us to learn from these pop-up exhibits.
And it's about the Instagrammable moment. And so we're actually seeing now, we're going to show examples of some event designers who are thinking about designing their event with everything being an Instagrammable moment. And they're marketing these Instagrammable moments on Instagram, and they're growing exponentially. So they're really tapped into the millennial thinking, and that is that everything is Instagrammable, everything is to be shared with everyone else. And so that's the biggest trend that we're seeing that's making its way into the industry, which makes you think of things way more holistically. And what's in the camera shot, so that was one of the biggest trends we saw, and it's one of the things that's going to dominate a good portion of our seminar is that discussion.
Yeah,
I think it's both Instagrammable and experiential. I was just having a discussion with some people yesterday about how, when we start to look at how do we recognize sponsors, how do we help them create activations, what it always comes down to right now, what I'm seeing right now, and you guys can agree or disagree and share your thoughts on this, but it's the Instagrammable moments, but it's also anything that we can do that will spark a conversation.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we'll give you examples of some of food delivery options that we've seen at restaurants, but that could be utilized in events, and these selfie backdrops, and all sorts of technology that's coming in and brought to a level where sort of the mainstream community can enjoy it. It is about sparking conversation, and it's about the experience and all the different ways that we can interact with anything at an event. And that is what it's all about. And we are right on the same page with you on that.
Well, and where we're opening it up, and I was just saying the global event forum that you've been a part of in the past, the reiteration this year that happened at ILEA conference in Denver, the big thing that came out of it is that, we are, as the live event industry, is in a very unique position right now, because most of advertising dollars from corporations were going into TV advertising. And so everyone can DVR anything nowadays, and they're not paying attention. So they've redirected their money to live events. This is a beautiful opportunity for us as an industry to start thinking, you know what, we actually could be extremely important and part of every one of these marketing departments and give us some value that our industry is definitely needed. So this is why we're paying attention to this, because the marketing dollars are coming to the live events, and they are expecting, as corporations, us to push their hashtags out and their messages through viral marketing. And we're going to do that.
Yeah, and one of the things to expand upon that, it's experiences, but it's on demand. So yeah, the experiences on site are important, but with all these hashtags and all the social media platforms that are out there, it enables more people to see it, and the reach becomes broader. So we live in an on-demand community right now, and it's interesting that these live experiences live on well beyond the time of the event and really reach further. And that serves to do a variety of things. It certainly can help with the sponsors and sort of reaction, but it also helps, a community become inspired and become knowledgeable about things that are happening out there in the world.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. That whole, sorry, Will, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was curious because obviously you guys are saying like, hey, experiences and almost turning to like mini experiential, event marketing companies. Do you think that's also a big trend that you're seeing, is that event companies also have to become event marketing companies? And if so, how do you think that traditional companies who are used to just providing, like you say, back in the day, it used to be just design and decor. Now it's way beyond that. How can companies start to transition into that new trend?
Interesting question for me to ask, because I'm actually doing it right now. I'm going through a rebranding, because actually from the Global Event Forum, I realized that I need to change my talking points. I need to change the way I'm talking to my clients, which are mostly corporate. And so it is a vocabulary change. We are not party planners. We are event producers. We are event production. We're live event producers. Live is very important, because that is a very unique distinction, because there are events which are sometimes recorded and you see them later, and there's live events. They have way more complication, way more touch points, live with audiences, and then that content is captured and pushed out over viral media. This is why I can't emphasize it enough. This is a unique opportunity, because we've been talking about the legitimacy of our industry, and now we are more qualified to do live events than advertising and marketing companies. Why would we not step up to the plate? And so I can't answer how you would do it, except that we all have to start making that change, and it will actually elevate our industry together if we do that.
And also for me, because I'm a vendor, so I'm much different than Dave, and this is, Dave touched upon this. We really like working together because we come from very different perspectives. We're geographically in different places, and we, as a vendor, I see things way differently than he does, and the way that I touch people is much different. And so when my clients come in to meet with us, we work a lot with social. We definitely do corporate, but from the get-go, they come in, as especially in the social market, they already have a hashtag developed. They have a website for all of their attendees and their guests, and they have the way they've laid out the plans for their event is far different than it was a decade ago. And the branding of their event is very, very specific. Everybody does want to be authentic. Everybody wants to make it personalized. But recognizing that it is, events by nature are staged. They're sort of caught in this dichotomy and the balance that is, between a produced event and being authentic and raw and real. And so I work with my clients, both social and corporate, to create something that straddles both and achieves both. But it is a much different world than it was a decade ago, or even less than that.
Yeah, even a decade ago, it evolved after the economic downturn. So about 2013, 2014, business started coming back. It's now redefining how they expect to see us work with them. So it's actually been pretty quick that this transformation change is happening.
Yeah. And they like to tease everything when they come into my showroom and they're doing an Instagram story and they're doing a little snippet of a little, what they're expecting to be utilizing, and they'll add a little corner of a flower, and they want to get their guests excited about what they're doing without giving it away. So they actually are pushing it out there on their own. And that's an interesting, different way to amplify events than we've ever seen before as well.
All right, so we're getting a lot of questions in from the audience. Keep these guys, everyone in the chat, keep these questions coming. If you're asking questions about technology trends, I recommend you tune into last week's episode. We'll talk more about technology during that episode. We're focusing primarily on design here, guys. But what the question we got in from Nikki Rasman is she wants to know, is Instagram still the dominant force when it comes to events, and should people be designing, these photo ops around Instagram, or, are we preparing for something else big, or is this, a trend, but maybe more of a fad? What are your guys' kind of thoughts around Instagram?
Instagram's not going away anytime soon. And even when it said that Facebook's going away, it's not going away. Those are the two predominant ones that we pay attention to. We really don't think visually on Pinterest or Twitter. Snapchat, while it may be interesting in the future, not right now.
Yeah, and the stories on Instagram are really, in some capacities, taking the lead over the posts. So while the posts and your grid are all extremely important, again, these stories are sort of what it's all about, because it's the experiences, but they're on demand, because you may not be able to watch it when it's unfolding. I know they disappear, but now they have those mechanisms to even save them. So you can watch the experiences on your own time on demand. So I'm with Dave on the Instagram saying, I will say, interestingly, that in the social market, Pinterest is still a really big thing. I can't tell you how many brides, because we work with trade and we work with end users. So we do have a lot of brides that will walk into our space and actually have Pinterest pictures printed out. So from my perspective, Pinterest is still a thing. We get a lot of leads from it, but hands down, Instagram is it.
Yeah, and I don't see anything replacing it anytime soon.
Yeah.
Not from a marketing standpoint. I mean, that is the place to market nowadays.
And the other thing about Instagram, which is so great, is, you can be in anybody and sort of make it big. One of the things that Dave and I have been talking about in our sessions as we're building up our research deck is just sort of these Instagram stars and what has become Instagram famous, and why are some of these things Instagram famous, and what are the outcomes of it. I was researching a couple of the biggest people who did Vine, and they really literally got 1 billion views on some of their posts, and people would stop them walking down the street, and then Vine shut down. And now these poor girls are just like starving actors in LA all over again. And they talk about it in their podcasts and documentaries. And so, like, what's real? What's smoke and mirrors? What's happening? And where do real people fit into the equation? And these influencers and midfluencers and now nano-fluencers are actually a thing where they may have a smaller population of followers, but they have a greater depth of reach.
I think it's fascinating as we start to look at how do, events kind of fit into that landscape of life, and how do we work with those people to help elevate the stature of our events. Because really, when we start to look at things like Instagram, it's about, showing that social status of, look where I am doing what I'm doing. And we're so lucky as, part of the events industry to be able to be the people who are crafting some of people's highlights, and also those things that make people laugh and cry and hug each other and share a moment and create all of those little moments of magic that we all need more of in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really cool. So I want to transition back to design a little bit. So let's talk about Pantone colors. So
Coral.
Here we are again.
Coral.
it's
Woo!
not just coral, it's living coral.
Yeah.
So, if you
So-
look, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Honestly.
it is. I mean, it always is a reflection of something that's going on in the world. And, the sort of fragility of the world and the coral reef system is something that's happening out there. Global warming is a thing. And if we are not caring for our earth, bad things are going to happen. So while there is obviously a color associated with living coral, I think conceptually the concept is about the fragility of life and the preciousness of life. As far as the color itself, coral, I mean, how is that going to infiltrate our design aesthetic?
None of mine. It's not going to infiltrate mine.
How many of the social clients are going to show up and want to have coral as their color of the year? I mean, we went from greenery to ultraviolet to living coral. So I totally agree with Susie, that it is definitely a statement of the times, as was greenery, was still about sustainability, and as was ultraviolet. So
Yeah.
You don't see it. You don't see it in fashion as much. It's really, Pantone and the Pantone Institute is really created for color commentary for corporations, especially in advertising. So you're going to see a lot of color coming into magazines and in advertising on TV and things like that. I don't know if it necessarily always makes its way based on the announcement of the color into the fashion world. Right, Susie? Because right now they've been heavy into yellows right now.
Yeah, yellows, strange colors are coming out. So not to be a spoiler alert here, but one of the things that David and I will be talking about that is that the color of the year is actually the rainbow, because we just don't base our design aesthetic on what Pantone dictates. And there are plenty of other colors that were coming down the runway and that we're seeing infused into fabrics. I just got back from High Point from a really big show, and the shows that I attend are also for the home interior design market as well as the event market. And yeah, were there some coral things? Sure, but there was no higher percentage of coral than there was any other color of the rainbow.
I was like, if I see a coral oven show up, that's it, I'm done. I'm never looking at Pantone again.
We can look at it. Listen, we got to learn. One of the things we also talk about is we learn and we take note of this stuff, but then sometimes we dismiss it. And if we choose to dismiss it, it's a conscious decision.
Conscious decision.
So, yeah.
Oh my God, we think alike.
I like it.
That's why I like you so much, Dave.
We love each other.
I must admit, I'm not a big fan of coral, but I'm not usually the designer. That's why I have people on my team to do that sort of stuff. So moving from colors, I saw this question come in, and I wanted to ask about it because I never thought about it this way. But textures is also a question popping up. Are you guys seeing any sort of trends with textures that people are liking, or what you guys are utilizing a lot coming up this next year?
Well, I could tell you that, and I'm going to let Susie answer the question. Textures are something that we're always paying attention to because light, touch, everything plays off of it. I know there's some textures coming on the floor, but they're repeats of years previous, right, Susie?
Yeah, so it's actually texture is something obviously that is intrinsic to my industry, my end of the industry. And so that's something I'm always on the lookout for. And as it relates back to experiencing it versus recording it and sending it out there on Instagram, that's being noted. So for example, velvets have become really quite popular over the past year or two. They're not just in the winter and they're not just in, down the fashion runways. But the one thing about velvet is it's fantastic to touch and it just feels so wonderful. But
I perceive value.
But when you get pictures, I'm always excited to get, from my photographers, the photos back from the events. The velvets actually look pretty plain Jane in the photographs, which is unfortunate, but it's because you're not touching it and feeling it. And that texture is something that is lost in the photographs. But there are things that you've all seen, like interactive sequins. Those things are just made their way into my market, and we use them all the time, and they're great and they're fun. And that's, an example of something that feels good and is fun to play with. But when you get out that boomerang, it also works quite well in the Instagrammable moment as well.
Yeah, I was actually looking at your site earlier today, and I was like loving some of the, the visuals around like the lace and that, looking through, and that actually was making me think about the living coral, right? So some of those lace textures are really going to play into that sort of living coral theme.
Yeah, well, you actually, you're right on point, because in our wedding and floral design section, we pay attention obviously to the bridal and the fashion runways. And one of the things that we are going to be talking about is macrame and applique. So colored laces and floral laces and all these textured woven things are really, really popular, both in fabrics and also in the florals. I mean, Dave's got, Anil from his team has got some gorgeous images of feathery, loose, flowy things that are suspended from ceilings and are coming out of vessels. And they really just sort of are reminiscent of sort of a boho earthy vibe, but sort of in a new iteration of it.
Texture is that one area that can touch more than one senses, and that's why texture is important.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it also, you talked a bit about food trends as well. I think that, we might have flavors and food trends or the vegetable of the year, but, I think from almost everybody that I know in the entire planet, texture with food is a really big thing. And
yes, some textures they don't like. Yeah. Well, and food and beverage, I started my career as a caterer. So I started as food and beverage first. When we talk about immersing people in an experience, if you don't have the budget to create an entire experience around them, you can do it with food service and food. That is one way that you can actually do it. So this is why we pay so much attention to food. And literally, as a designer, I am now putting in my presentations, this is how we should deliver this food. This is the kind of food we should have. Let me work with you in talking with your chef. So I'm inserting myself as a designer into the food and beverage process when it's not necessarily my place to go, because it is part of our responsibility to think about our design holistically.
Yeah, and similarly for me, a decade ago, it was like, okay, I'm having a buffet. I need 8-foot rectangles in a row lined up in one long span down the middle of the room. And it's like, those days are long gone by. We have whole meetings that are talking about the food delivery and how that's going to happen and what are the shapes of the things and, how they're configured and what's the flow around them. And so, that part of the conversation sort of enters into my end of things as well.
It's, I think it is really that whole changing that everything into experiential. So now what about, let's call it the olden days, everything was a theme. So is that a word that you're still hearing from your clients?
Not really. I think I did a themed event up in San Francisco about a month and a half ago, and I was almost embarrassed to show it on my Instagram feed and everything else, because we don't do themes anymore. We're really now paying attention to the branded message, what's happening in the space, making sure if the branded message has to be about color coordination with their logo, with their messaging, we're paying more attention to that than we are themed events. Now that's the corporate side. I can't answer from the social side.
Well, from the social side, it's actually the same thing. I mean, we obviously do a lot of mitzvahs, and back in the day, in the olden days, we had a lot of sports themed bar mitzvahs and pretty princess things on the girl side. And we definitely have some themes, but the optimal word here, again, agreeing with Dave, is branded. So even these kids at 13 years old, they want a brand, they want to personalize it. And so that's, they definitely still have threads of consistency through what they're doing, and they might have a color palette, and they might have, they want something modern and edgy, or they want something, a bride might want something more classic. So, but it's not a theme in terms of, wanting to have Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory anymore.
They do ask, but it's not nearly as much.
Yeah.
So I think we can mark it as 2018, the death of the theme. So that's we're gonna put a stake in that one.
Don't say that Dave or Susie said so, though.
Never say never.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Right?
This won't be published on Google and then spread across
no one will know.
a million different republished versions across YouTube, Spotify.
Yeah,
Stitcher.
no one will know.
No one will know. No one watches this show. All
Blaming
right. So we're going to jump into an area that I'm really excited about, because obviously I run an AV company, and a big part of AV is lighting. And I wanted to hear from you guys. We started talking a little bit about texture and how lighting can affect that. What are you guys seeing in terms of the evolving technologies when it comes to lighting? And what are you guys seeing as the big new thing when it comes to lighting? Susie, you want to kind of kick it off?
No, that's Dave.
I don't know. This is me. The interesting thing I think is LED technology is the biggest thing. And from a practical standpoint, power draw is a quarter of what it used to be. So everyone's going to like that because it's going to hit the pocketbook. You don't have to pull as much power. You don't have to ask for as much. The other thing is battery operated. Now you can have pin spots, up lights, everything that's remote controlled by Bluetooth or Wi-Fi that doesn't even plug in. So all the time of, running those power cords around the perimeter or hanging stuff in the ceiling, getting power out to it, all the cost involved goes away when you have battery operated, magnetized pin spots you can just throw up in the ceiling and turn it on. So those are the two biggest things I'm seeing. And then, there's a lot of advances in, LED lights themselves. And this is where I start to geek out. The first LED lights didn't push as much light out. And now the newer ones are so powerful that you can actually put gobos in, which was something that was typically for just a conventional light fixture, a LECO. Now they have LECOs that are LED. So not only can you have a gobo projector on the wall, but with a push of a button, you could change the color, which is radical as well. So there's a lot of advances in technology which are just making lighting more accessible, more understandable, and more easy to use.
Yeah. And from my end of things, again, from a visual perspective, we just have to take note because the way light hits our fabrics really affects a lot. So there are some times when a client will want to put a bunch of deep hues of red, orange, and pink together in a room. And depending on what kind of lighting is in that space, they actually can all start looking identical if it's not properly lit. So similarly, if someone's working in a black box kind of a space and they don't have good lighting and they want to do navy, I just, have to let them know everything's going to look dead and black in there. So, the lighting does matter and it does affect us as well. And as far as the technology goes, I'm at a lot of these setups and, another thing that's really great is that things are remote from your phone. So we do a huge cancer gala every year here in my hometown of Pittsburgh, and it's in a hockey arena, and they have a bunch of little intern minions running around the bleachers, the seats, and they literally place thousands of little battery operated tea lights. And right before the bowl opens for the main part of the evening, they literally take out their phone and push a button and thousands of them light up all at once. Now that could never have, that concept couldn't have come to life a few years back. So it's something that's spectacular looking and really quite easy to execute.
I love it. I think definitely what's helped a lot with that trend is the Philips Hue movement of everyone installing smart lighting in their house too, that everyone's starting to understand like, wow, it's really cool to like splash some color on this light and do this here. Whereas everyone in the past was like, oh, yellow light bulb, that's it. Or white light bulb, that's it.
Only choice we had, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're getting towards the end of the show. So I had one question I want to make sure that we definitely got in before the end of the show. And that's related a little bit away from design, but more maybe for the people that are in design, so that way they can prepare for themselves in the future. You guys have been in business for a very long period of time. You guys are legends. Literally, people in the comment are calling you guys icons. Obviously, that's why we have you here, right? They want to know a little, and I want to know, you guys have been in business for so long. How do you guys kind of weather the storm when, things do not go so well, and, maybe you made a bad decision going with this one client and lost a lot of money off of it, or let's say business is slower than you thought and you have to evolve to that next level. What's like one tip that you guys have for people who are looking to evolve their design businesses beyond just moving into the experiential that we were talking about earlier?
I can tell you right off the bat, if you think that one day you get to a point where those cares go away, they don't ever go away. It's part of what we deal with every day. We, as you may think that we're successful, and I believe that we are, but we have the same concerns. Are we going to break even? Are we going to make money? Are we going to fall flat on our face? Right now I'm concerned, being an experience of the fact that there's another economic downturn going to happen, not like in 2010 or 2008, but we have a recession coming. So, oh my God, are we going to be able to make payroll? The first thing I would say is that just know that it's always going to be there. And the best thing you can do for yourself is come up with a way to clear your mind, whether it's meditation or anything else. Find a way to allow that clutter and those worries to leave you. Because if you keep them inside you, and I'm not always good at doing this, they're just going to consume what you do and what you think, and consume your decisions. They never go away. Anybody who thinks they're on top of the world is going to get knocked right back down again and have to climb again. It's the way the world is.
Yeah, I'm with you on that roller coaster as well. I'm a small business owner, and I've gone up and I've gone down, and I've weathered the storm as well. A couple things I would say would be, always believe in your heart. So, everybody has doubts, no matter how big you are, no matter how long you've been doing it. It's hard to just, trust your heart and do what's, is right in your heart. And sometimes that's a hard decision to make, but trust yourself. On the second side of things, have a tough skin, because I'm also with Dave in the sense that, I've got staff, I've got payroll to meet, I've got, a rent. Should I expand? Do I buy another van? Do I, enter into this contract? All these types of things. You sort of have to have a thick skin and ride the wave and sort of know what the end game is, and that enables you to sort of filter out some of the things that are perhaps clutter, as that was a good word that Dave said, and filter them away so that you can stay on course to where you're trying to get to. And then finally, I would suggest, as Dave does, I always try to escape. I'm a big fan of travel. For a variety of reasons. It inspires me. It keeps me just in tune with what's going on in the world. And it also is that escape from my mind, because you can only, as a creative soul, I believe, you run out of juice and you've got to recharge. So the place to recharge for me sometimes is far away from my showroom and my office building. And so that's why I actually travel so much. I love it, and it just keeps me inspired and it keeps me fueled. So take that opportunity whenever you can.
And I would also say that don't be afraid to take those risks, because even a mistake is a learning lesson. I would say whenever I make a mistake, I just say, no, it's not a mistake. It's just an expensive lesson. And I've had a lot of expensive lessons over the years. And the problem is, if you don't learn from it, then you have a problem. And if you learn from it and don't repeat it, then you've done the right thing. You're always going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
I like what you just, absolutely, both of those things. But I also think I want to just touch back on what you said, Susie, which is that idea of that we need to have creative space that's not in our offices. So, over the, years, I've had many jobs where, my role is creative director of something. And Dave, you're in exactly this position too, as you often are. And people expect that you can just sit in a meeting and all of a sudden, boom, you're creative and you're just going to come up with all these ideas, and right. And it doesn't work like that. It works with listening to what our clients are saying, taking some of that, doing some research into their brand and the messaging that they want to get across, and then finding that quiet space. And often that quiet is by going.
It could be in the shower, or it could be in the middle of the night,
which is usually when it is, all of those places, right? So, I spent the last 6 months just traveling, and I have so many ideas still colliding around in my head just from all of the different things that I got to experience. But you find those little gems in different times that all of a sudden make your event just go, wow. And people are like, where did that come from? And it could literally be from somewhere that you just happened to see the way a seashell sat on the sand and the sand came over it. And all of a sudden that translates into a linen fabric, and how that sort of looks at your event. And so that's the cool thing about what we do, as well as we can be inspired from anywhere. One of the things that I want to touch on, so Will, you had your business question. My question is, both of you give back a ton to the industry. And I know that you have some special projects that you work on, and I really want you to take some time and tell us about those.
Susie, go first.
Okay, so yeah, giving back is, I always say, it's a privilege to give back, and how fortunate we all are, wherever we are on our journey, that there's always room and there's space in our hearts to give. So I feel so good giving back. It's something I do because I get personal pleasure. I have 3 daughters, and I want them to understand that it's also their privilege and responsibility to do the same. So Event Pros Take Action is one place where I do that. It is a not-for-profit that we developed about 8 or 9 9 years ago. Dave has been very involved with it and has done much for the organization, and I'm eternally grateful to him for that. But it's basically event professionals who are helping communities that have suffered from environmental catastrophe and are in the process of rebuilding. And we've been to all sorts of places. We've been to New Orleans 6 or 7 or 8 times. We've been to Texas 3 or 4 times, Rockaway. We're actually having a carnival in LA right after TSE in conjunction with Cove Carnival. It's with Covenant House. Hopefully Dave will be there.
I'll be there.
Yay, and there'll be a day of activities for the kids. And it's the future. I mean, the youth are the
Puerto
future.
Rico.
We need to help them. And also, yes, in March 2019, EPTA will head to Puerto Rico for the first time. So, you know, I give back in other ways in my local community. I'm building a school in Tanzania, but more than anything else, EPTA is a special thing because, and organizations like Search, which is our industry, not-for-profit that helps our industry people in need. So, you know, you always have to find it in your heart to give to those in need, and it gives a special pleasure to help industry folks and sort of spread out into our industry and help them as well. So that makes me feel good. And thank you for asking, Tahira.
No, I love what you do. I think it's so inspirational.
It is. It definitely, for me, there's a number of charities, and right now they're kind of evolving, that I get involved in, largely because I can help an event professional to kind of create a framework to create an environment for them to raise money, which is an expertise we all in the industry have, and it's something we can give freely. So something that I always get involved in. But I think my passion right now has been in the Global Event Forum. You know, they brought me in with Alan Fulgerod this year to create the curriculum for the next step forward on the Global Event Forum. And to me, it was so much work and a lot of pressure, because I was going in front of the smartest people in the industry and creating this curriculum for them. But to me, it was rewarding because it is an advancement of our industry. And that's why, I wish more than anything that the special events industry is no longer looked at as a mom and pop industry, and is looked at the professionals that we really are. And so there's a lot of steps and things we have to do to correct where we've gone. And so I've spent a lot of energy and time on that to kind of help create the next steps and how we're going to make that happen.
You know, I'm excited that actually next year we have at least 2 shows scheduled right now. So one around the Global Event Forum, and also one that we're doing with the group that does Meetings Mean Business. They're both addressing those in different ways. And so I'm excited for both of those EventIcons episodes happening in the spring.
Yeah,
Like how you teased it.
Yeah, so let's wrap it up with our last design question. So if you could only deliver one amazing look this year, maybe that's not living coral, what would it be? So I'll tell you my dream event while you think about yours. So my dream event is to create an event that's avatar. So you start out super clean environments, like a lab, only clear drinks. It's very, you know, hushy and professional, and very, you know, people are just talking, trying to figure out what's going to happen. And you go across a lit tree into your forest dinner where you've got your avatars, you know, playing up in the trees above you. But then after dinner, you get chased out into the dance party. So.
Is this a dream you had?
I know, I'm like, wait, what?
Dream? This sounds like a dream. And you're running.
The best design ideas come from dreams, David.
That's right. I'm waiting for the client that'll buy into it. Nobody's come forward yet. So.
Well, you heard it first. You heard it first. If you want that idea, you know who to go to. David, what's your go-to?
This is a tough question to answer because I feel like I'm doing my dream events now. I mean, you know, anytime I can steer someone in, especially a client, into thinking about the event holistically, we talk about adding in video, adding in, you know, letting us get involved in the food and beverage and steering that, and taking all the elements and creating one synergized message moving forward, whatever those elements are, whether it's entertainment, AV, food and beverage, design and decor, or all of them combined. That's what I strive to do all the time now. So I'm constantly looking for those kinds of events, those kind of clients that want to do that.
How about you, Susie?
And me? Well, I think it would have to be a combination of a nostalgia for times gone by and a comfort. somehow married and merged with hopes for the future. So I think that, my mind is always caught, and I feel like our country is caught in so many ways, and troubled in so many ways. So I would like to plan an event where there's sort of this foundation of comfort, and sort of reminiscent of things from the past that feel good and that are comfortable and all-knowing, but also with that foundation that people feel good enough to be able to venture into the unknown and push the envelope and consider things in new ways and be open to perspectives and experiences that they perhaps would not have been willing to do. And I would like to create that environment where people feel safe enough to venture into the unknown in new ways. And the ultimate goal of that would be for them to walk away from that experience. And again, I'm with Dave that it would be fully immersive in terms of food and lighting and entertainment and, smells and textures and everything. But the ultimate goal is that in their minds, they walk away from that experience and consider the earth and the world and their community a little bit differently and a little bit more open-minded than when they walked into that event.
Wow.
I don't know how to do that.
And I just have a big gigantic LED screen, so it makes me seem all lame now. All right, guys, we only have a couple minutes left, so I want to wrap up with our last two questions that we asked all of our guests. And we kind of started talking about tips for small business owners and medium-sized business owners and stuff. But I want to jump back into tips and focus on a tip that you have for event planners out there, event and meeting planners. What would be your one tip going into 2019 that you want event and meeting planners to know, whether it's design trend related or not? Feel free to lay it on us. So David's whisking out the window and thinking of what his is. So Susie, we'll start with you.
Okay. I guess it would just be like in anything that I approach in my life and what I tell my daughters as well, chunk it out and take it one step at a time. You're not going to become an icon and a legend and a guru in your industry and what you're trying to do overnight. And it becomes almost too much weight on your shoulders to think that you might be able to do that. So, really just focus on one building block at a time and then get there and then start working on the next building block. And yeah, you all have a couple projects going on at the same time, but Rome wasn't built in a day. And whatever your path and your journey is going to be, it's going to take time. Nothing good comes easy, and it doesn't feel good if you didn't work for it. So be ready to put in the work for it, and then you will be, rewarded with the outcome from it.
I love it. Patience.
Quote of the day. It doesn't feel good if you didn't work for it. Yes.
I need the question again.
Your one tip for event and meeting planners in 2019.
Don't dismiss the expertise around you. And I think this is one of the things, especially if I was talking to a meeting planner in front of me, you're hiring me in to do a job. Trust that I know what I'm doing and listen to it, and don't think that yours is the only opinion. Same with me. When I'm sitting in a room with a lighting guy, a chef, an entertainment company, they have expertise we'll never will. And you can benefit if you open yourself up to all that expertise. It'll just make you, and learn from every single one of them. It makes you a better person. I go to technology conventions, I go to food and beverage conventions because there's as much there to learn for us as there is just in the special event convention.
I love it. Every vendor is like, yes, listen to us. All right, guys. My last question for you guys, and we actually do an episode every year where we're going to wrap all up our favorites, but we want to hear from you guys. What are your favorite resources, your favorite tools, blogs, books, where you go to get inspiration, pretty much anything at all. It also a chance for you guys to share any cool resources that you guys have as well. But yeah, feel free to name drop all your favorite resources. Susie, you look like you've got a ton ready.
Of course, always. I love art. So my resources sometimes are just like, attending things that pertain to art, whether it's theater or art exhibits or pop-ups or movies. Any kind of art is something that inspires me. And then
do you have a favorite thing that people could still check out that maybe still running, or maybe something that's reoccurring that you would say like, oh my gosh, this is a must see?
Some of the things that we're going to be featuring in our presentation and some of the things that are sadly are going to fall onto the floor. There are some really cool interactive theater things going on. Sleep No More is one that's in New York. Accomplice. There's one that just closed in California. That was another one of these things. The Night in the Chinese Garden.
Yeah.
It basically invites people to enter into a theatrical journey where you're a part of the plot and the outcome of the storyline, and you just follow people around, and it's wild and trippy and weird. But those kinds of things are really intriguing to me. There's restaurants that are doing this kind of interactive experience, and there's a lot of those kinds of things. And the pop-ups are similarly doing those. So I go to those silly pop-ups. They're fun, and I learn from them. So different kinds of tools. And I'm also a big fan of podcasts. I listen to a lot of them. I drive a lot, so it's a nice way, and I cook dinner, and so it's a nice way.
What's your favorite podcast?
Oh my
Other
God,
event icons.
Yeah, exactly. Well, right now I'm listening to one really creepy, bad one about that gymnastics, like pedophile Larry Nassar. It's like really
inspiring, yes.
But Michelle Obama's book is amazing. I just heard her speak in New York, and I'm listening to her book on tape. So there's always good stuff out there.
I love it. Awesome. Good resources for sure. David, what about you? What are your favorite resources?
Susie mentioned it early. Travel is probably, and it's not just vacations. It's, I'm lucky enough to be traveling around the country and doing events. Slowing down and walking through an airport, or taking a different route to your location and just looking at different buildings, you'll find so many things if you just slow a little bit down and start looking left and right. And that's where, strangely enough, I find a lot of myself. But to also follow along with what Susie said is that the exhibits are something that's always really inspiring to me. And I would say Yosoi Kusama, who has those infinity mirror, she is brilliant. Brilliant. Yoko Ono, if you've ever seen Yoko Ono's art exhibit go, it is out of this world. Otherworldly, and it's brilliant. So I like those kind of quirky, different artists.
Awesome. Wow. Good resources, guys. I mean, stuff that I don't think I've ever had mentioned on the show. So really excited to definitely go check those out to give me some more inspiration as well. Well, guys, it is 6 p.m. Eastern, which means that the show is come to an end. David, Susie, thank you so much for being on the show and dropping your 2019 trends. Obviously, as we talked about earlier, they're doing a session at TSE. So if you can make your way out to TSE, go stop at their session because they're going to dive into this a lot deeper. But we are so honored that you guys were willing to share some of the cool things that we have to look forward to from a whole day session condensed down into a single hour. So David, Susie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for
having me. Our pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, everybody tuning in, don't tune out quite yet because you know that every single week we record this at 5 p.m. Eastern right here at event-icons.com. That's the best place to tune in. But if you couldn't get this live and you want to listen to it on your own time, or you want to go back and listen to all the resources and trends and everything like that shared, or you missed the Tech Trends episode last week, definitely make sure that you go and subscribe to us on iTunes, Pocket Casts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube. I can't name all the places we're at, but if you search Event Icons on your favorite platform, chances are we are there. So go check those out. We have the video and audio formats for you guys. And also, if you aren't and you're actually just listening to us on podcast, go to event-icons.com, sign up. We had a ton of people in the chat today. I'm just going to name some of them. Nick, we had the Rise of Coco. I don't know what your real name is, but thank you for joining us. Nikki for joining us. Reed, Stephanie, everyone for joining in the chat. We are so happy to have you guys here live and joining in the conversation about event trends. So thank you guys again. This has been Event Icons. Will Curran, also joined by the lovely Tahira Endine, who I couldn't have done this episode without because she's also an event design queen as well. So Tahira, thank you so much for joining us. And her voice is gone. So she's like, I'm done. All right, guys, we're going to catch you guys all later. Next week's our last episode of the year. So we'll see you guys all there. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Event Icons.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of #EventIcons. To catch the transcription and all of the resources mentioned, head to www.helloendless.com/blog. This week's episode will be posted and available by next Tuesday. Also, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Share your biggest takeaway and join the social conversation. Sponsored by Little Bird Told Media. Just tag your post with hashtag EventIcons. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on hashtag EventIcons.